I don't know if you know this, but life can actually be enjoyable. Work isn't everything, time with family is sacred, and it's okay to take a break. I know all these ideas may sound like novel revelations, but these are all things I had to relearn about what I thought work-life balance looked like as an American living in Spain, more specifically Madrid. Hey guys, I'm Danielle, and this video is for Americans who are thinking of coming to Spain, or for any Spanish person who's just curious about what the American mindset is like. Because I've been living in Spain for over a year now, I've had a lot of Spanish friends ask me if I really do believe in the American work mentality. And honestly, this has been such an interesting question to field because I don't actually know where I stand on it. So this video is going to dive into three things in particular. One, the American mentality regarding work culture. Two, the Spanish mentality from my American perception of work culture. And three, what I've learned. So let's get into it. Number one, what does it mean to be an American worker? This is a really tricky one in my opinion because I was born and raised in the US. This idea of work and hustle and the culture surrounding it has been so deeply ingrained into my being that I genuinely can't imagine my life or even a day without the hustle. Like, it's genuinely something I wake up and I'm excited for. I don't know if you're Spanish watching this and cringing as I'm saying it, but when I first moved out to Spain, it genuinely took me back by how much you really value your personal time. Because I was raised in a society where your quality time was only meant after you finished your work. It wasn't like you could just take it in the middle of the day because you wanted to, and the only people that did that were those that were suffering from burnout, and the rest of us kind of looked at them like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go back to work now. And whether you love or hate this statement, the American mentality surrounding work, at least from my perspective as a born and raised Philly girl, meaning that I was raised near the suburbs of Philadelphia, and when I went to university, I went to Pittsburgh, but the work culture has always been something very expected. It's not normal for us to take a break that's longer than 15-30 minutes for lunch, and if you do, then it better be work related, and it would probably be on the company's dime, meaning that you have to take out a very important client for a lunch meeting, or you're meeting with very important C-level staff within your organization, something regarding business. It's not like we're just gonna take 2-3 hours out of our day to go have lunch. That's absolutely absurd. Genuinely absurd. We're not waking up at 9 o'clock and going into work at 11. And the second that the clock strikes 5, we're not out of the office. We'll put in the overtime, we'll go in early, we'll work through lunch, and we enjoy it. And yes, part of this could 100% be the conditioning of work culture, but I'm speaking to you as an American who's both experienced the European life and experienced the American life, but I can genuinely say I love work. I love the hustle. I love the feeling I get when I can complete all the little things in my checklist. I love that sense of pride and accomplishment after putting in an honest day's work. And egotistically speaking, I'd love to see the numbers work in my favor, knowing that I've put the work in order to deserve it. Like, sometimes, yes, I'm really drawn by vanity metrics, and other times I just love to see them because it proves that I'm actually doing something right. And for better or for worse, something that I've noticed with a lot of my American friends, especially the ones that grew up in a similar system to me, meaning that we were raised with the work culture, we were raised with the grind, we really do get a strong sense of ourself and a strong sense of pride from the work that we do and in completing it well. It's not just enough to do it and call it a day. We have to be the best at it. We have to give our 110% all every single time. And this, by the way, is not regarding school. Like, for example, when I was in school, me and my friends would think it was so cool if we did very little work and got a really high grade. We were like, oh, we're so smart, we don't need to put in any effort, ha ha ha. But when it came to actual work, like when I was shadowing in a hospital or even when I was working at Chipotle, I took pride in doing the very best job of everyone there. When it came to the work that I did in the hospital, anytime that I was shadowing and I could read a nurse's note, which, by the way, the symbols look like this, they're hella confusing to understand if you don't know the lingo, I felt so proud of myself because I knew that I had studied and I had put in the work in order to actually read and understand what this meant and know the next steps and what to do faster than anyone else in the room. And it wasn't because, oh, I'm so smart, I'm so great. It's because we were working to help a patient, and I wanted to help the patient in as fast and efficient way as possible. I got a sense of joy out of knowing that I could do the job so effectively that it saved everyone time. And then because I saved so much time with doing this one thing, it then opened up the space to do even more work. So then instead of working for 8 hours a day, feeling like I'm being only semi-productive, I work 8 hours a day, but I'm doing the work for 3 days. And I feel super ultra mega productive. And we're always just looking for that extra thing to do. And even when I was working in Chipotle, I was always looking for something extra to do. If we didn't need to restock something, then I would see if there was anything that needed to be batched in terms of guacamole, slicing up peppers for the next day, or I would look to see if something needed to be cleaned and just keep my hands busy. And if you've been confused by this entire rant and it feels really foreign to you, know that the summary of it is that the American mentality is all about keeping your hands busy, keeping your mind going, always filling your day with something, because the sooner that you can complete one activity, the quicker you can start another. better. And the more that you can do, the more sense of accomplishment you're gonna feel, and the better you feel about yourself. Number two, the Spanish culture. Now, I do want to be very fair and when I say this, because this is coming from the American point of view, and I am very biased when it comes to this. But something that I've noticed in terms of the Spanish work culture is that you don't care about work. You don't care about being the first to the office. You don't care about being the last one out. You don't care if you're late coming back from lunch. In fact, you'll probably take a 2-hour lunch or a 3-hour lunch and include the boss in that. And I find this to be such a gnarly way of living because I had a Spanish friend working for AD magazine. By all means, it was a really cool opportunity. She was a writer, she was a journalist, she was traveling, she was going to different events. It was a super glamorous looking lifestyle from the outside, but she was also the first one to say that she would be out of the office the second that the clock struck 5. She would take the whole 60 minutes she wanted for her lunch, and if she could, she would work remote. She wouldn't worry about going into the actual office. And times may have changed from when I was a worker in the US to now because we went through an entire pandemic, and I don't know what corporate life was like during the pandemic or post-pandemic because I moved to Spain post-pandemic. But when I was shadowing in a hospital and when I was actually doing work for a senior citizen home, I never looked for remote opportunities. I always looked to be on site doing something right there in the field. And out here in Spain, the mentality surrounding work is very leisurely. It's not something where you're excited necessarily to go into work, even if you love what you do. It's just something that you have to do to pay the bills. I even had a friend working at Real Madrid, which is like a huge football club out here. For us Americans, we call it soccer. And his workday would start at 11, and he would sometimes say, "Ugh, I have to wake up so early. I have to get up by 9." 9? Are you joking me? And this was a job that he liked. He would take his whole lunch break. He would leave as soon as he was done his shift. And as an American, if I found out that I could be working at a really prestigious sports club, I'd be doing everything possible, climb the ranks, improve myself within that organization. I'd want to take on all the responsibilities I could. I want to prove to them my effectiveness, my productivity, everything. And this guy was like, "Yeah, it's a really cool opportunity. I just hate having to like do these extra things. It's so boring. It's so whatever." And I guess the main synopsis of what I'm saying here is that from what I've gathered as an American who's been living in Spain for a year now, the mentality surrounding work from a Spanish person's perspective is that you don't live to work, you work to live. And you take it very, very seriously. And in a lot of ways, I really like this train of thought because it's forcing me to slow down and actually reprioritize where I'm putting my energy, what I'm actually focusing on in a day. Meaning, am I actually being a social creature? Am I actually taking care of my health? Am I actually being mindful in the moment about what I'm putting into my body, what I'm doing to my body in terms of exercise, and how I'm treating my mind? But in other ways, I really don't like this because it goes against everything that I've ever been taught, and it makes sense why the average salary in Spain is a whole heck of a lot lower than what it is in the US. Because I'm not trying to get into this card because I know that it can be quite a sensitive topic, but it is very well known that Spanish people do make considerably less than the average American. For example, the average Spanish person could be making 1,200 or 1,300 euros a month. That's the equivalent of $1,400 a month. As an American, we view that as poverty. Even when I was 15, 16, I viewed that as poverty, and I know that it's not poverty, but we view it in such low regards because we know that the earning potential in life is so much if you just put in the work. And for better or for worse, we basically invented capitalism. So when it comes to the work and putting in the work, we want everything that we can buy because we know that we can buy it. We're making it. We're doing it. We're in the field. So this leads me to number 3. What have I learned? A lot. I've learned that to live in Spain, you have to have a passion that's other than work. If you have a passion that is solely work, you're going to be able to make it in society, of course, but you're not really going to be in society. You're not going to experience and fully appreciate Spanish culture. Spanish culture hinges very much on community. They have this overwhelming feeling of family and connectedness that is felt by everyone to a degree that I have never experienced anywhere else. I've lived in Germany, Netherlands, I've visited France, I've gone to Jamaica, I've seen Switzerland, Austria, Italy, and I've lived in the US. Never in all of my travels have I felt such a strong sense of family and community as when I've been in Spain. And a large part of it is because they really do carve out the time to spend it with family and friends. They care so much more about the connections that they make with the individual person and understanding people at that real personal level than they do to earn an extra 500, 600 euros a month. For them, it's worth it to take a 2-3 hour lunch break instead of using that time to do more work. For them, it makes make sense to go home and get to your family when the clock strikes 5, because then you can spend time with people that genuinely love you and care about you, and that's a better way to spend our very limited life. The other thing I've learned is that breaks aren't something to feel guilty about. In the US, if I had to take a break for something, I would genuinely apologize. I remember when I was shadowing in a hospital, I fainted when I was in the ER. First thing I did was apologize. I missed out on maybe 15 minutes of work because at that point in time, I was super stressed out. It was very chaotic in the ER, and a lot of other things were happening that my brain got completely overstimulated and completely shut down. And instead of wondering, hey, why did my brain just shut down? I apologized to the nurses on rotation because I've just passed out. I wanted to work. I didn't want to pass out. I wasn't thinking about, oh, why did I just pass out? I was thinking, crap, I just missed 15 minutes of work. I could have seen what the procedure with a new patient that just walked in the door was. I could have just seen how the other nurse programmed the system over there. I could have done so many other things except passing out for the last 15 minutes. And now when I feel the need to take a break, I actually take a break. I'll take these tiny little mindful moments throughout the day and just connect with myself and really think, am I being productive right now, or am I just mindlessly working? Would a walk around the park be more beneficial than sitting and doing more work? Or should I maybe stop for lunch? Instead of working for a straight 6 hours, taking a break, and then doing another 3 hours of work, I now will work for 3 or 4 hours, take a break, and then come back. And this is still something that I'm working on. It's not something I'm 100% confident in doing just yet. But even recently, I've started working with friends in a cafe. And when I first got here, I would get so pissed off when they wanted to go out for lunch because I couldn't imagine why they wanted to stop working and completely interrupt their productivity flow. But now it's something that I actually welcome and I look forward to doing. And living in Spain has just really taught me that work, even though it can lead to everything, it isn't everything in life. And there are some things that are so much more important than the paycheck. And yes, I'm still very young and I still have a lot more of living to do, but I'm really glad that I internalized this lesson at 21 instead of understanding it when I'm 51 or 61. Because there are so many adults that I know in the US, some of them my family members, that have looked me in the eye and said, love what you do because otherwise you could be like me, waking up at 50, realizing you wasted your life. And if I were to end up in a situation like that, I really don't know if I'd ever have the words to even express how that would feel. So in so many ways, I feel so blessed to live in Spain and understand the work culture and the mentality around it, while in the same breath, I'm still holding on to some of my American traits. So I hope this has been helpful for you in understanding a little bit more about the American mentality and the Spanish mentality surrounding work culture. And if you've learned anything, I hope you've learned at the very least that life really is to be lived. And no matter what you're doing, no matter what field you're in, there is space for something else. There is space for lunch. There is space for a walk around the park. And there's nothing wrong about that. You don't need to feel shame or guilt or stress. You can just be. So thank you for being here, and I'll talk to you soon.